Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode. This is just another podcast with Mick. And as you can tell, the background is completely different. Honestly, I miss my older background, but yeah, tell me how you guys feel about this setup because it just might be the setup for the next couple of months for this podcast. So tell me how you guys feel about it. So, yeah, and the reason why it's different is because I am currently in the US, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Life in the States, whether it's during the pandemic or just life in general. But you guys already know that we have a few drinks on this podcast. So, yeah, and one thing that I love about being here in the States is double bottle wine. Like, look at this. This is 1.5 liters of wine. It's huge. It's a double bottle. And it's funny because I made a joke. Because in the Philippines, when you want to buy like a bigger bottle of soda from like a sari-sari store, you're going to say like Coke 1.5, like 1.5 liters. Here in America, it's wine 1.5. Wine 1.5 liters, which is insane. Look at it. It's huge. This is one big bottle of Yellowtail Chardonnay, a personal favorite. So yeah, feel free to have a drink with me, and we're gonna do our ASMR pour. I had a little bit to drink already, I'm sorry. So there you go. Have a drink because, we're just chilling. Cheers. So good. Okay, so life in America. So we migrated to the States back in 2018. So a lot of people assume or just think that I grew up here in the States. No, I was born in the Philippines and we moved to Dubai, lived there for a couple of years and moved back to the Philippines, stayed there for like more than a decade. And the thing is, yes, we did intend on moving to America because my grandparents were here. They're American citizens and they stayed in California for a long time, like for like decades. So yeah, we wanted to move to the States, but it didn't work out because for a time I think it stopped, like those petitions and all of those stopped because of the recession. So we really kind of just gave up on the idea of going to the States altogether. And we accepted that to the point where my grandparents moved back to the Philippines to be with us. Now, suddenly in 2017, my mom got this email telling her that, hey, you're good to go. You can go to the States. You're going to ship soon. And she was just like, is this for real? Is this a joke? And she called up the company and turns out, yeah, it was real. This kind of shook up our lives entirely because number one, again, we were kind of set on going to stay. We were going to stay in the Philippines for forever. And number two, my sister wasn't able to come with us because she was past the age of 21. She was turning 23 at the time. And yeah, she had a job, so she wasn't technically dependent on my mom. Now, I was actually like on thin ice. Like I wasn't supposed to be able to come either because when we were gonna get interviewed and all of that, like the process of coming here, I was a month away or less than a month away from turning 21. So yeah, but luckily I was still able to go with my mom. So in July of 2018, we migrated to the States. Our grandparents came with us. Sadly, my sister wasn't able to come, but she lives a really good life in Singapore. So yeah, maybe it was a blessing that she wasn't able to come here because she lives a really great life in Singapore. But yeah, anyway, we moved there. We moved here in July of 2018, and I fly back and forth because you guys already know I am still a dentistry student. So cheers to all of the dentistry students stuck in the pandemic. This is for you. But yeah, that's why I fly back and forth because I'm still studying. And I flew back last month because of the pandemic. All of our classes are pretty much online. We aren't going to do face-to-face yet, but I think there are plans of doing that soon. So I might come back late this year or early next year. But yeah, I came back because I'm actually on this thing called a re-entry permit. So basically, I'm a green card holder and I can't stay out of the country for more than a year. And when in cases that you have to be out of the country for more than a year, you apply for a re-entry permit, which kind of sucks for me because I spent most of my re-entry permit in quarantine. So yeah, so my mom was just like, you're in quarantine anyway, you can do your classes here, just come here. So I was like, okay. So I went. And yeah, that's pretty much the story of why I'm here right now. Now, I want to talk a little bit about my flight going here because, I wasn't really able to like dive deep into it in my previous video because I wanted to talk about like the more technical aspects of what you need to have in order to fly out internationally. So yeah, I want to talk about it a little more here. Now, I was actually super scared upon entering the airport because it was relatively empty. But I was scared because in my balikbayan boxes, like in one of them, I had a lot of dental materials because I have virtual clinic, so I can still do stuff here, so I'm not totally idle, right? So the thing is, I was so scared because there was so much metal in one of the boxes, and some of them are sharp. Some of our instruments are sharp. And I was just so afraid of having them open it, and I'd be questioned or whatever. So that was like a nightmare. Just like the idea of that was like freaking me out. So I remember like my box going through the X-ray, and I was just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, it's happening. And then the lady there was like, uy, ano to, tulungan niyo naman ako dito. And I was just like, oh my god, it's going to happen. But luckily, it didn't. Got through just fine. But the thing is, the protocol is no matter what happens, they have to open all of your stuff. So they had to open up my balikbayan box, which kind of sucked because it was already wrapped in rope and all of that. And the thing is, they opened it. They literally just opened it. Like they just, okay. And then they closed it. So I was just like, that was such a waste of time. My time and your time as well. But yeah. There were no problems, thank God, with my dental materials. So yeah, was able to get through. The interesting part was during check-in. So while they were checking my stuff, there was this guy. He was an American, and he started yelling. And it was really interesting because you never really see these things in person. You only see them online, at least in the Philippines, of course. And this guy was yelling because he didn't want to put on a mask, which was interesting because in the IA or Ninoy Aquino International Airport, they're very strict there. So yeah, face masks and face shields are mandatory, but he didn't want to put on a mask. And he was like yelling that it's stated in the Philippine law that any face covering would do. So what he did was he pulled up his shirt like that, and he expected it to be okay. So obviously the staff there didn't allow it, and it kind of got bad because security came, and then he started like getting even more mad because security came up. And yeah, it was just interesting to see that kind of thing in person because you never really do. You only see it online. But yeah, it happened. I'm gonna burp. Excuse me. But yeah, that guy was so interesting because like every time I saw him, he had a problem. Because like after customs, they're gonna check they're gonna check your carry-on, like go through the X-ray and all of that. And then like they wanted to check his baggage, and he was like going on this rant about like women's brasiers, that they have metal and stuff like that. He was like, do you expect women to take off their bras? Stuff like that. I have no idea what they were talking about, but I heard that and it just made me giggle. But anyway, so the airport was relatively empty. I felt like this false sense of safety because I was like, ooh, social distancing. There's nobody here. And that all came crashing down when I boarded the plane because there was so many people. It felt like a normal flight, except we were in a pandemic, so it was scary. Everybody had face masks and face shields, and the cabin crew were all dressed up in PPE. So there's that. It was somewhat different, but not totally, because there there was no social distancing. Like, I had somebody next to me, and our distance was like this much, which really freaked me out because I am a paranoid person, both in flying and in COVID. It just freaks me out so much. And so I shot that vlog, right? So I shot that. I just want just a little sharing. So I was trying to be as cinematic as possible, right? And just the idea of takeoff freaks me out. Like, honestly, if you talk about it to me right now, like taking off, and then just like, when the airplane makes that sound, that and then it starts going fast, and then you're gonna go like this. Oh my god, I'm going to die. Like, I can't breathe. I literally can't breathe until the plane cruises, and then the seatbelt sign goes off. But I'm just like, I have to shoot this video. It has to be cinematic. It has to be stable, Mick. So I remember during takeoff, I was just like, you can do this. I wasn't breathing. I was just holding my camera as stable as possible. I was just like, am I getting the shot? Am I getting the shot? But luckily, I got a really good shot at takeoff. So yeah, I was dying inside, but I got the shot. But anyway, yeah, the flight was scary for me because I didn't want to eat at all. I had no intention of eating because I didn't want to take off my mask. At the same time, everybody else was going to take their mask off to eat. And I ended up eating the first meal. There were like 4, but I ate the first because I started to feel faint, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna torture myself if I don't eat this meal. So I just ate it as fast as I could, and before and after the meal, I sprayed betadine throat spray, which is an antiseptic, to make sure that everything is sterile and all of that. So it gave me some peace of mind. So there's that. So yeah, I only ate 1 out of 4 meals. It made me really anxious when I was eating, and then the people next to me knew each other, so they just started laughing and all of that. I was just like, oh my gosh, the particles, please stop, shut up. But of course I couldn't do that, so I just put on my mask as soon as I could. But yeah, overall, the flight was smooth, except for 30 minutes of torture. There was like this turbulence. There was turbulence that was really bad that went on for like 30 minutes, to the point that I started repenting my sins. It was so bad. I was so scared and I was panicking. But yeah, after that, it was a pretty smooth flight. Now, upon arrival in JFK, it was very, very lax, unlike in NAIA here in the Philippines, because like we had to present your documentation, the proof that you're COVID negative, that you had a negative test result. You had to show that everywhere to get into every section of the airport. In JFK, I went through customs, and I handed my passport and all of that, and then I handed like the piece of paper that showed I was COVID negative, and then his face was just like, "The hell's that?" I mean, he didn't say it, but he was just like, "Put that away." And I was just like, "Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm just gonna throw this, like, rip it apart." But yeah, very lax, even in the city, because I was out for like a while when we were going, when, of course, like when you exited, like everything seemed normal. Some people weren't wearing their masks and all of that. It was really weird to be there, after being in the Philippines, where everything is so strict. But yeah, so we went back here in upstate New York, right? The next day, my mom and I stayed at a hotel because it was like 1 a.m. when I arrived. So yeah, then we drove back the next day. Now, life here in the pandemic, it's really weird for me because it's super chill here. Some people don't really wear masks anymore because the CDC announced that if you're fully vaccinated, you don't really need to wear a mask anymore, which for me is a little premature, but yeah. It's really easy to get vaccinated here, though. I waited until I surpassed the 14-day thing, because I did get tested, although I never got my result. They never called me, but I think that's a good thing here, because I think the protocol is if you're COVID negative, they won't call you. If they're positive, then they'll call you. So Yeah, but either way, I cleared the 14 days. No symptoms. I felt okay. I felt great. So I scheduled my appointment after that. And I got my vaccine like 2 days after, which was great. And I'm scheduled for the second dose in June 15th. So yeah, I got Moderna. So vaccination rollout is doing really well. But I do hear that in the Philippines, it's going great as well, which is awesome because the people I'm very close to have all been vaccinated, which is great. Yeah. So other than that, it's more or less very lax here. It's actually very political here as well, and I don't want to get into that. I don't want this to be a political podcast episode, but I will say that I believe in masks, I believe in vaccines, I believe in science, and I believe in prevention. So as much as possible, I will socially distance and all of that, wear a mask to protect myself and to protect others. I am in upstate New York, so it is very open. It's not congested here at all. There are lots of parks and all of that, so it is more or less safer than in the city. So yeah, but I still will try my best to do my part and wear a mask and socially distance, all of that good stuff, even while I'm vaccinated. So yeah, that's pretty much life here in the pandemic. It's a very, very chill. Insanely chill. It actually scares me sometimes, but yeah. Now, life here in general is very, very different as well because I come from the Philippines, obviously, and life there is very lively. I've never really been the kind of person to be, nightlife and have that kind of thing where I go to bars and all that. But I do want to believe that I had a life, that I have a life, rather. But it's always been lively. You can find anything to do at any time of the day. Even if it's midnight, you can go to a McDonald's, eat there. Here, everything just kind of shuts down at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. here in upstate New York. I know that the case would be different if I lived in the city, like New York City or LA, but honestly, if you don't make millions, I don't know, it costs so much to live in the city, so it doesn't make sense for me to do that, honestly. But yeah, here in upstate New York, life just kind of shuts down at 8 to 9. I'm not really a big fan of the lifestyle here because it's literally just work, go home, school, go home, all of that. Not a really big fan of that. So I prefer the lifestyle in the Philippines because it's just much more fun and much more lively. Now, there are things that I do enjoy here now, and it's something that I used to hate. So I hated the fact that I didn't used to live in the city. So every time I was here before, I hated it, more or less. I mean, I enjoyed being with my family, I enjoyed being with my friends, but I would much rather be in the city where things are busy. That rhymed. But, after being in quarantine in the pandemic for a year and a half in the Philippines, it's crazy that something just switched, clicked. I really enjoy being outside. So, like, anytime I get to be outside, even if it's in the park, I just want to breathe fresh air and feel the sun on my face. I really enjoy that now. So, things have been very different for me now that I'm here. I don't hate it as much. I know I'm sounding so cynical, but I'm a city person. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine now. I've only been here for a month, so that can change. Am I still recording audio? Okay. I thought I wasn't recording audio anymore. But yeah, that's been fun for me now, just being able to go outside. And yeah, it isn't crowded here, so it's okay to be able to go outside every now and then. So yeah, pros and cons of living in the States. So, like, biggest pros for me are Amazon. That's number one. It's so convenient. I love shopping on Amazon. I left a lot of stuff behind, so it's just great being able to find everything and having it shipped to you so easily. And weather is a great pro as well. I came here in early May. So that's like going into summer. So I wasn't able to experience cold weather for a long time. Happy that I was able to experience it either way. I have experienced spring, which is fairly cold, and fall, which is fairly cold as well. I haven't experienced winter. I think I'm going to experience it this year because I think I'm going back either late this year or early next year. So yeah. What other pros are there? Double bottle wine. This is the biggest con. Okay, a con. This is the biggest pro. And just like fresh air in general. I enjoy it now. Okay, like big changer. Now the biggest con for me is just like the lifestyle. I'm just not a fan of it. I prefer, as a 20-year-old something, I'd prefer the lifestyle in the Philippines. So that comes back to the question, like, where do I prefer to live? Right now, at my age, probably the Philippines. Yeah, that's just like the honest answer. One more thing I want to talk about is the difference of like home life in the Philippines and in the US. So my mom recently bought a house here. So this is the living room of that house. And it's been great. I mean, it's much better than living in a little apartment. So there's much more space. We have our own individual rooms now. It's great. But one thing that we had to adjust to is like tending to a lawn. I mean, I guess some people have lawns in the Philippines, but we didn't. So we're very, very new to that. And I don't know why we waited like a month to tend to the lawn, which is really stupid. Don't do that. And we had no idea. So like the lawnmower that we got is manual, not the one with the motor. It's the cheapest one there because we're Filipino. Let's face it. Gotta get the best deal possible. And we got the manual one, so no motor. And the thing is, the grass has risen so high that it's so hard to cut. And it's so high to the point where we saw Pokemon. It was Pokemon. Well, no, you don't get it. Tall grass? No? Never mind. I made myself laugh, but it's fine. But basically, tall grass. It's so hard to cut, especially with a manual lawnmower. So I can't imagine how stupid we looked just being outside and trying to use this thing that's like as tall as us, because like the lawnmower is pretty high. When we use it, I think it's up till here, so I'm like pushing it with all my might. And I remember one of our neighbors actually greeting us like, "Hi, my name is this, my name is, let's say, John, my name is John, do you need help?" And then like we're like, "Hi, no, it's fine, we got this." But obviously we didn't. And like we were falling apart. But we wanted to say, "Can we borrow your lawnmower with the motor, please? I beg of you." It was bad. And we probably looked so stupid. At some point my mom was kicking it to just like get it to move. It was really funny. But yeah. Adjusting to that was very, very interesting. Now it's more controlled since we were able to cut the grass already. Now we just have to maintain it. And yeah, life is just very, very different here compared to the States. To the Philippines. But, each country has its pros and cons, its own set of that. And there's just a big difference between like a first world country and a third world country. But for me, my heart is, in the Philippines. I grew up there. I love it so much. It's just a lot of fun there. As a young 20-year-old, life there would be more fun. So, yeah. I think somebody asked me that in my Q&A, if I prefer to live there or in the States. But, being with family is important as well. I'm really happy that I'm here and I get to spend time with my family, even though we drive each other absolutely crazy. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's fun here too, even though it's upstate New York. Again, parks are fun, hiking is fun, fresh air is fun, feeling the sun in your face, not being in quarantine and all of that. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to end this podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm sorry if I sounded like I was whining. I'm happy to be anywhere. Just as long as I have my wine. Am I right? Am I right? Double bottle. Look at this. Look at this big boy. So yeah, that is pretty much that for this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe. Cheers.